But Mr. Mohammed asked me to do a lesson on perimeter and area. Okay, so we're going to start by taking some measurements in the classroom. So I had planned for you to work in pairs, but because there's only 3 of you, does anybody want, you can work together. Why don't you do that? All 3 of you can work together. So on the sheet, you will see, it gives you the objects, so the classroom, and then a place for you to put the measurement for each of the sides. So you're going to measure all 4 sides of the classroom using the measuring tape and record it in here. And then the next thing would be the window, big window. So again, the 4 sides of the window, record the measurements. The whiteboard, the doorway, around the doorway, and a wall. Okay, so we'll start with that, and then what we'll do is we'll use those measurements to work on perimeter and area so that you can develop a really good understanding of what the concepts are and how we can apply them. Okay, so you're right at the 17-foot mark. So you could say 17.5 inches, but we'll just round it down to 17. So that's your second side.
Side should be 5 feet.
All right, well, we need to keep going. We measured the classroom already, so we're going to put the results together. We'll combine them. Yep, no worries. Okay, so it's Kennedy?
That's right.
Okay. Do you want to read out the results that we got for the classroom?
Side 1, 21 feet and 5 inches.
21 feet, 5 inches.
Side 2, 17 inches.
17 feet?
Yeah, feet.
All right, so these are the measurements we're going to use for the work on perimeter and area. And that's because a lot of what we want to know in terms of areas and perimeters come from practical things like our surroundings, right? Our homes, our classrooms. So if I wanted to, for instance, take the window at the back, and I wanted to put trim around it, I would need to know how many feet of trim to buy, right?
Yeah, inches and centimeters, I think.
Okay. So, looking at the measurements that I have for the window, how would I find out how much trim I need to go all the way around the window?
The length and the width.
Okay, so the length and the width, and what do I do with that?
You measure from up to the length, you measure from up downwards, and from the width, you measure from the side.
Okay.
Left to right. Yeah.
So we did that.
Yeah.
So I have all these measurements,
Yeah.
but I want to know total.
You add them up?
You add them, that's right.
Okay.
Now, what do you notice and when you look at things like the whiteboard and the window? What's the same amount of them?
The whiteboard and the window, they're the same shape.
They're the same shape, and what shape is that?
Rectangle.
Rectangle, that's right. Okay, so these are both rectangles. And we know that because of, do you remember your geometry way back when? We know that because we add them, but when we look at the sides, after a while, did you measure all 4 sides?
Yeah.
Did you measure all 4 sides? No, what did you do?
2 sides are equal.
2 sides are equal,
The
that's
same.
right.
Yeah.
Because I know that these 2 are the same and these 2 are the same, can you come up with a shortcut for the formula?
The same.
Almost. Is it 1 length and 1 width?
Yeah, 1 length, 2 length and 2 width.
2 lengths plus 2 widths give you what we call the perimeter. So what about number 4? No. How am I going to find out how much fence I need to fence my yard?
I have to check it right around.
Yeah.
Check
So
it
it's
out.
12 feet plus 3 feet plus 5, 6 plus 3 plus 5 plus 9 plus 11.
Exactly. I'm going to have to add them all up. So if you don't have a rectangle or a square, at this point, from what you know already, at this point,
You have to add everything.
you're going to
right
have to
now.
add them all. So if I need to know how many tiles I need to replace the ones that are down, I could count. But I'm going to have to count, right? So I'm going to have to say 1, 2, 3,
7.
18, 19, 20, and then all the way back, right? I could do that, and that's going to give me the right answer. So in fact, what I'm doing is making something that looks like this. 21 rows across, columns down, sorry, and 17 rows
17,
across.
yeah.
So you could just go one side and one
Multiply it, right?
side.
Okay, so I did that. I counted there were 17, right, which represents this number.
Yeah.
And what would I multiply it by to find out all of
You
this?
have to count,
21.
count the next row. No, you have to
Count the numbers, rows?
You have to check on those rows.
21.
21,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And if I multiply 17 by 21, that's going to tell me exactly the number of these little squares, because each one, right, 357. Okay, 357 what?
Feet.
Almost.
Foot.
I took 21 feet and I multiplied it by 17 feet. So a foot times a foot equals a square foot.
Oh.
So that's why when you see an area calculation, it always has a square
So-
because you've multiplied. So I'm going to say A, meaning area, is equal to length times width.
Yeah, remember that.
So that's our formula for area when we're dealing with a rectangle.
Mhm.
I'm just going to say that for a rectangle. So now we have a formula. So from the question, from number 2, Mr. White, I've drawn my rectangle. How did you label your rectangles?
Area is
Do you want to come up?
this, so this is 2 feet.
I want to know 32 times what number will give me 800?
32 times 4.
How would we find that? You're close. You're
Add the 4 sides.
you're- No. Now I'm just looking at this
Oh.
equation. If I take 800 and I
Divide.
divide it by
Okay.
2,
25.
that is a 25, okay. So 25 is equal to W. We're going to do something called, it's called think, pair, share. Okay, so you're going to, for 2 minutes, I want you to just think about how we might go about calculating the area of this shape. And then after that, you're just going to spend 2 minutes discussing it, and then hopefully we'll come up with a conclusion. Now, so don't say anything, just think about it for a couple minutes. You can make a sketch if you want.
I know.
Okay, well, before you tell me, share, so talk to your partners. What were some of your ideas then?
Adding and
Out
divide.
of everything.
Adding up all these measurements?
And then divide the number, like, then count the sides and then divide the other side.
Yes, ma'am. If you add up all them, we're supposed to get 30.
What if
Split.
Oh, yeah, that would be 5.
what do I have now? I have
Equal sides.
a rectangle here,
Yeah.
and I have a rectangle here, right? And if I did that,
Yeah, 40 plus that.
I have another rectangle up here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's okay to take something that's larger and to chop it into parts.
Really?
Because if I find the area of this piece, and I find the area of this piece, and this piece, I just add them up. And that gives me the area of the whole thing. All right, one last thing before you go, and I'll let you go. So if you could, finish up this packet for next week. It's basically just reinforcing basic calculations. They're just to reinforce the idea of the formula for the area of a rectangle and perimeter. But before you go, I'm going to do something called an exit pass. So you finish these 2 questions, and when you finish, you can bring them to me, And that is your pass to get out, to be free.